Bradley and Alec. This is the welcome to the Baseball Banter podcast. We are part of the NGSC Sports Network, ngscsports.com. We have got a busy show tonight. We are going over our MLB predictions, part one. Part two will be next Tuesday. No show on Thursday. So I suggest we probably should just hop right into it. And I will let you give your first prediction for the 2025 MLB season.
First prediction. Is this like bold predictions, bud? Is that what
No,
you're?
just predictions overall. Like I said, because we had talked about it before the show over text. It could be anything from who's going to win Cy Young to predictions
Oh,
for.
okay. I mean, I have it all broken down. I have World Series, Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year, managers on the hot seat, and opening day starters for the 5 teams that you had on this sheet. Where do you? So I mean, I can start with the World Series if you want me to start there. I can start
You
there.
know what? I'll give my first one, and I think it is. And I might get slandered for this. I think the Rays are going to have a top 10 rotation this year. And here's why. Everybody's healthy at right now. You got McClanahan back. Rasmussen's going to be a starter. Shane Boz is fully healthy. Taj Bradley, and then you got Zach Littell as your fifth starter. That top four in that rotation is probably one of the best young top fours in the majors.
I agree because again, outside of
Well,
Junior
and then
Cavill,
on top of that, you got Ian Seymour that's probably going to be up at some point this year. You got a guy like Mason Montgomery, who was a starter in the minors, who's now transitioned to the bullpen. I might even dare to say that the Rays might have a top 10 bullpen in baseball this year.
no,
On top of that top 15 rotation.
I agree. Because they're going to have to rely a lot on their pitching, and that's where their strength is anyway. It always has been that way. So to me, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think, who is their pitching coach? Kyle Schneider. He's one of the best that can take guys that from other teams that have struggled, and all of a sudden they find their pizzazz again. So yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I think, and I was listening to local radio here in Tampa on my way home. They were predicting the Rays would win 85 more games this year. I'm going to buy that. I think that they will. I think it's going to be right around.
Well, you see, that's one of my predictions for later on.
Okay.
So just leaving you on a little.
But yes, I agree with the thing, but I do agree with that. So my prediction for MLB, I think this is going to be the year that we have a surprise team. And what I mean by surprise teams are the lower market teams like the Rays or the Royals or the Reds. They're going to be in the thick of it this year when it's all said.
Would the Guardians count?
Yeah, the Guardians, because it's not the Yankees, it's not the Red Sox, it's not the Dodgers, it's not Phillies or the Mets. It's the teams that we don't. I mean, heading back to 2015 when the Royals beat the Mets or the Nationals beat the Astros, teams like that, we're going to have a team that no one is talking about, going to surprise a lot of people this season.
Well, Yankees fans, later on, you're not going to like what I have to say about your guys' win total. And I'm assuming that's music to the ears of my co-host that is a Red Sox fan.
Yes. I hate the Yankees with every ounce of my being.
So do I. As a Rays fan. My next prediction, and it's another one for the Rays. Josh Lowe, fully healthy. We'll see how long that stays. We'll see how long he's healthy for. because we remember last year he started the year on the IL with injury. I think, and you can tell me what you think, and I know we're probably going to get some people that say, "Oh, that's way off base." Josh Lowe hits 30 home runs and steals 30 bases. I'm sticking by that. I said that 2 months ago in January. I'm sticking to it in March, right before the season starts.
I think the smart thing for Kevin Cash, in all reality, with him, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of slack for this too. He needs to be the
Lead him
leadoff hitter.
off. Yep.
He needs to be the leadoff hitter.
I
And the
was just going to say that. He needs to be the leadoff hitter, and then you have like Yandy or somebody that can drive him in, bat second.
Yeah, you could put Junior.
Or you could get crazy. Put Johnny DeLuca second.
Speed. You got speed at that order. Yeah. Yeah, you could do that. I mean,
And
you
then
could
hit Caminero third or fourth.
I would say like in the fourth spot, put Yandy Diaz in that third hole because he's an RBI guy. So you throw him in there, let those two guys steal bases in front of him and drive him in. Yeah. No, I agree. I think Josh.
Kevin Cash, if you're listening somewhere, take our piece of lineup advice and thank us later.
Being that I've got a chance to stand close to him, he's a very approachable guy. Just to let anyone out there know, he's not one of those, uptight
Aaron
type
Boone.
of. He's a very approachable guy. He will answer questions. So take it from somebody who's been in the media with them. He will answer questions if you ask.
What is your next prediction for MLB?
Next prediction, I think it's going to be a down year for teams like the Astros. I think losing Bregman's going to be big.
Well, Bregman wasn't the only loss. They lost Bregman. They lost Tucker. They lost Presley, Verlander.
It's going to be whole new
four. If we're counting, that's four guys that were a big part of their team.
With them in the AL West, I could see Texas maybe winning that division this year.
I've heard people say the Athletics, and I just don't.
Really? Why? Because they're not Oakland.
Well, no, because of all the young players they have.
Well,
Geloff, Langoliers, Butler. And apparently Brett Rooker is going to be playing a lot of outfield this year, which I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, if you think about it, they really have no pressure on you. They're not in Oakland anymore. They've moved to, they're playing in Sacramento. They're not playing in Vegas yet. So there's really no pressure on them to win. And again, like I said earlier, they could be one of those teams that could be a dark horse that nobody talks about. And by the time we get to July and August and it's game time, they're right there in the thick of things in the AL West. So
here's the thing. They actually spent money in free agency this year.
That's shocking because they didn't do that in the past. Interesting.
They went out, they signed Severino. They traded for Jeffrey Springs. But my next prediction is, and I know I'm going to get slack from Brewers fans and all fans in the NL Central. Hunter Green has a career season, a career year, wins 14 games and has an ERA of, and I know he had an ERA under 3 last year, of 289 with 210 strikeouts. There was a lot of, and I'll probably say this a lot more on the show, these next 2 episodes. There's a lot of a lot of glimpses of a guy that could be a 1 or 2 in the Reds rotation going forward over the next 10 to 15 years. And if they can get another healthy year out of Hunter Green, look out, NL Central. The Reds might just be, and if they make a trade, I think they're one bat away from being the favorites in that division. And that would be going now and getting a Luis Robert from the White Sox. And I read an article. We'll get back to the predictions in a second. But on a side note, I read an article the other day on the reason the Reds did not do that trade in the offseason. The White Sox were asking for 3 of the Reds' top 4 prospects and a MLB ready, a guy that was on the MLB roster already. And they wanted the White Sox the Reds to take almost all the money of Robert's contract, which isn't a lot. He's making like $5.6 million for the next 4 years.
Smart,
now,
man.
I think the reason the Reds didn't take it right now is because they want to see what they can do with Austin Hayes, what they can do with their other outfielders they have. Now, if we get to July and the Reds are in it, I think they pull the trigger and make that trade. Because I think that's the bat they're missing is an outfielder. And they could do the same thing with Yandy Diaz. They could trade for him. Like I said, I like that young core they have in Cincinnati with Ellie, with Matt McClain, with CES. But I think the Reds wouldn't hesitate at all if the Rays called him up and said, hey, look, we're trying to get rid of Yandy Diaz. He's on the last year of his deal before he's going to want a big time pay raise. Would you take him and you give us maybe a CES, a Christian Encarnacion Strand, and a lower level prospect or somebody to be named later? I'll warn you, Reds, don't pull the Pirates. And yes, I think everybody knows what we mean by that. Because the Rays, when they traded, who was it? Oh, Chris Archer to Pittsburgh. They got Austin Meadows and somebody else, and then a player to be named later, which ended up being Shane Baz. And the Pirates got fleeced. But that's typical Pirates. Anyway, back to our predictions. What is your next MLB prediction for 2025?
Well, you were talking about the Reds. I think this again. They like you said, they're a bat away. I think that they're
or you know what? If they don't add a bat, it could be a pitcher. Because I don't know if I could trust Alexis Diaz closing out games.
Well, they go with the closer. Yeah.
Some type of bullpen arm.
But
I think they could do both. They could do bat and a pitcher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because if you have the assets to make that trade,
if you look at their farm system is deep. We looked at it on one of our previous episodes.
Yeah, so I could see them making a trade and being the NL Central champions this year. So
I can too. What is your? Oh, yours was the Reds. Mine is Yankees fans. Close your ears. Red Sox will win more games than the Yankees in 2025. Yankees fans, I know what you're going to say. You're just saying that because you're a Rays fan. No, I have done my research. I've done my scouting. The Yankees, other than signing Max Fried, trading for an aging Cody Bellinger, signing an aging Paul Goldschmidt did really nothing. And the two big losses you had in this offseason were, one was, and it's a huge one, Juan Soto going to the Mets, which, and two, losing Clay Holmes. And I understand, and I talked about this on my episode of the podcast I did the other day. I understand Clay Holmes was their closer for a little bit, and he stunk, and then they took him out and put Luke Weaver in there. But that's still a big loss for your bullpen. Because he was a high leverage arm, and we don't know who your third baseman's. The Yankees have not decided who their third baseman is going to be, because Jazz Chisholm's going back to second base. Right now, it's between Oswaldo Cabrera, and a crippled DJ LeMahieu. Which, I'm sorry, you should have signed one of the top 3 free agent third basemen. Or called up the Rays and asked for Yandy Diaz or Isaac Paredes. No, the Rays didn't have Paredes. The Cubs did. You could have called up the Cubs and asked for Paredes in the Bellinger trade. And that's the other issue the Yankees have. How many games are you going to get out of Cody Bellinger?
It's a good question.
Because we know he has a very extensive injury history.
Correct.
It's lengthy. We can't go over it because we'd be here for
a very long time. Yep.
That's how long his injury history is. What is your next prediction for MLB in 2025?
I think my prediction, will be this will hit home. The Rays will have more sellouts this year than they have in the past few seasons. Yes, I know they're playing in a minor league ballpark. I'm aware of that. I know ticket prices have gone up.
Oh, they are astonishing. I was going to go when they play the Rockies. And for one ticket, it's $151.
Yeah, I have a one of my good female friends that is her and her mother travel with the Rays, and she got tickets, and it cost her $200 for one ticket for two tickets at $200 a piece to go and sit in the second level at Steinbrenner Field. So be aware, Rays fans, they lost a lot of revenue when Tropicana Field got busted by Milton. They got to make it back somehow, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to up prices.
The next prediction I have, and it's another one for the Red Sox. Garrett Crochet to win the AL Cy Young. Odds right now sit at plus 700. And I'm going to say this. I tried this last year with Spencer Strider to win NL Cy Young, and I failed. I'm trying it again this year with Garrett Crochet, and I have a better feeling about this year about Garrett Crochet winning Cy Young now that he's out of Chicago. Because if he was still in Chicago, there's no way I would have picked him for Cy Young. What is your next prediction?
I have I have Rookie of the Year in both leagues. So in the American League, I have of course I have to stay with the team that I cheer for. I think Roman Anthony will be the AL Rookie of the Year, and I think we both discussed this on an earlier show. The NL Rookie of the Year is going to be another outfielder, and that's Dylan Cruz of the Nationals. So those are my predictions for
okay. So I have my next prediction is Ellie De La Cruz to stolen base total sits at 53.5. I
Okay.
am taking the over, which sits at minus 120. And I know there's going to be people that disagree with that because they're going to say, oh, he's making swing changes. He's going to hit 40 home runs. He's not going to steal as many bases. Look at his highlights from last year and how many bases he stole.
He is a great person to watch in person. He stole
I call him the speed merchant.
he stole 67 bases last year.
He will easily get over 53 stolen bases. That's cash that you could put in the bank and you don't even have to sweat it. He will get you over 53 and a half stolen bases.
Yes, he will. If barring he doesn't get hurt, yes. If he stays away from it, which he's not got an injured past anyway, but if he stays healthy, he'd probably be close. I wouldn't doubt, but if he doesn't get 70 this year, 70 stolen bases this year.
I wouldn't doubt it either. What is your next prediction?
I have manager of the year, and I have Tito Francona, the former Red Sox manager. We were just talking about the Reds. I think he leads them back to the promised land. And the AL manager of the year is Kevin Cash. He's going to have his hands full. They don't have a lot of offense other than Junior. The pitching is going to keep them in the thick of it. I think Kevin Cash is going to end up winning manager of the year in the American League.
Okay. My next prediction, and yes, I do have my managers of the year, but I'll go over that in a second. My next one, Dodgers fans, you're going to hate me for this. Dodgers don't win the NL West this year.
Okay.
And here is my reason why. Look at all that pitching they have. Can we trust Shohei Ohtani to pitch and make 30 plus starts this year and hit 40 to 50 home runs again and steal 30 or 40 bases? That's one. Two, we know the injury history of Blake Snell. We know the injury history of Tyler Glasnow. And will both of them stay healthy the entire season? And there's been talk of the Dodgers going to a 6-man rotation, which we very rarely see anymore.
Correct.
To fit in a Tony Gonsolin, or a Dustin May, and Roki Sasaki. And Sasaki is the unknown one because we haven't seen him pitch in MLB. And yes, I know y'all are going to say, oh, yes, we have spring training. Spring training doesn't count. It's more for the guys that are trying to make the team, like prospects. Mm-hmm. What is your next
prediction? I'm gonna say this. I think Juan Soto changes addresses. I think he does better than he did at Yankee Stadium, and he leads the Mets. I'm not gonna say to a division championship, but a playoff spot for the New York Mets.
Okay. My next prediction is Bobby Witt Jr. stolen base total is 34.5. I like over 34.5 stolen bases for Bobby Witt Jr. And it sits at his odds for that to hit is minus 113. I think he like Ellie, he loves to steal bases. And he is one of the faces of Major League Baseball, of this generation. There's Mike Trout. There's Ellie De La Cruz. There's Bobby Witt Jr. Dare I say, do you throw Paul Skeens into that mix?
You could. I mean, if this is his second year, yeah, why not?
What is your next prediction?
I think Bobby Witt Jr. might win AL MVP this year. The kid is an outstanding player. The American League, I mean, there are some great players in the American League, but he is one of the best, and he's the one who, at times, has carried the Royals on his back. So I'm going to go out on a huge limb, but I'm going to say that I think he wins AL MVP.
Okay. My next prediction is, and let me fix my papers. My next prediction is Junior Caminero wins AL Rookie of the Year. And yes, we did talk about the NL Rookie of the Year also. Oh, wait, no, correction. I had that on there, but I also have, if it's not Caminero winning the AL Rookie of the Year, I think it's going to be Jackson Jobe from the Tigers that wins AL Rookie of the Year. And my NL Rookie of the Year is also a pitcher, and he's with the Rockies. He's one of their top prospects, and they're talking about he might break camp with the team, or he might start the year in AAA and then get called up later. Chase Dollander. And I'm also going to give you my manager of the year. My manager of the year in the AL is going to be athletics manager Mark Kotze. I think Sacramento, the Sacramento Athletics will overachieve and win more games than they're supposed to. What is your next prediction?
And remember, Kotze was part of the 20 wins in a row that the A's had back when Billy Beane was their general manager.
Moneyball.
Kotze was part of that team that won. For me, I know I'm not going to get my World Series fix yet, but
my World Series pick might shock you. That's all I'm going to say. And it does not involve the Yankees.
Mine doesn't either.
So we're on the same page there.
Yeah, mine doesn't either.
And ladies and gentlemen, no, we did not talk about our World Series picks before the episode.
No. None of these predictions this is not scripted, guys. We're not going off of it. We have notes, but we're not, this isn't script. This isn't, professional wrestling where it's scripted and we talk. And we get on the show, we go off the script or we change it, but no. I think you were just talking about the Rockies. And I know they've kind of been the laughing stock of Major League Baseball outside of the Chicago White Sox. But I think the Rockies make a step forward. I'm not saying that they're going to win the NL West. I'm not saying that by a long shot. I think that bad teams can't stay bad forever. It doesn't work that way. They get the right.
No, it doesn't.
They get the right players, and everything goes in the right direction. But again, it all starts at the top with ownership. If you get great owners, your team's going to succeed. You have bad ownership, your team's not going to succeed. Angels, for example. So.
Yep, Artie Moreno.
Yep.
My next, and I've got 3 here. The next 3 predictions are all odds to win their division, and the first one is the Tigers to win the AL Central. Odds plus 250. I don't know what it is about this Tigers team, but they just feel to me like that team that nobody in the AL Central is going to want to play all year. They got Jack Flaherty back. they're moving Colt Keith to first base because they got Gleyber Torres. Parker Meadows is going into his second year, his second full year in the big leagues. I know he's injured right now. Then you got Jace Young, Matt Vierling, who he just feels like the perfect glue guy for the Tigers. He could play. He's the Tigers version of what Jose Caballero is going to be for the Rays this year. He's a utility guy that can play everywhere. And I like their rotation. Flaherty, Mize, Job, Scooble, who is the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the American League. My next one is the Rangers at plus 190 odds to win the AL West. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is one I would take. I would take this all day. I'm not saying you have to, but if you were willing to put money down on it, I'd go ahead and put $25 down on the Rangers to win the AL West. Because are you going to try to tell me, oh, Seattle's going to win the AL West? They did little to nothing in the offseason. Other than bringing back Jorge Polanco, and you still got Mitch Haniger, which he's a defensive liability now.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably going to be your DH. You got the Angels in that division, which they're just there. With one of the worst contracts in baseball in Anthony Rendon. You got the Athletics, which we just talked about. I think, like I said, like both of us have said, we think they're going to surprise people. And then you got the Astros, which who the heck knows what they're going to do this year.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, their rotation is kind of going under the radar. I like the addition that they made in the offseason of Hayden Wesneski, because he was kind of on the outside looking in with the Cubs to get a spot in their rotation. And the Astros traded for him. And look, he's now penciled in as their fifth starter. And then the last one I have for this show today is at plus 250. It is the Red Sox to win the American League East. Now, if you're willing to put 25, I'm not going to say 25, but $20 down on the Red Sox to win the AL East, have at it. Go ahead. That's probably an easy $20 that you're going to make. Because I don't think the Yankees are winning this division, because we've seen what happens. They have a good first half, then they get Thanos'd. And yes, that is a saying that I just made up. They get Thanos'd and they choke. And oh wait, there's a big elephant in the room there. It's Marcus Stroman. Where's he going to end up? Is he going to stay with the Yankees, or is he going to get traded? What is your next prediction for the 2025 MLB season?
Yeah, I'm going with the Red Sox winning the American League East. That would be awesome. I'm glad that they went out and picked up Crochet, picked up Bregman. It's been a while. I'm currently watching the comeback on Netflix, the 3-game series when they came back in 2004 and beat the Yankees in the American League Championship Series and went on to win the World Series. But yeah, I think the Red Sox win the AL East. I think it's going to come down to them in Baltimore. I know Baltimore hasn't, they lost, but I think they're enough to be there. We'll see.
See, the issue with Baltimore, and I did a video on who I think is going to win the AL East, and of course I picked the Red Sox. I think there's going to be 490 win teams in the American League East.
Okay.
and 3 of them will make the playoffs. And I'm sorry, Baltimore fans, it's not going to be you. You did nothing. You signed a 35, 36-year-old Charlie Morton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is he going to be? An innings eater? And you have an unproven rotation after that. Other than him and Zach Eflin. I mean, Grayson Rodriguez. Do we know if we're going to get a full season out of him because he was hurt a little bit? You're getting your closer back, Bautista, which that's going to make everybody in the AL East uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because he throws absolute missiles. 100-mile-an-hour fastball and then a curveball and a slider that just drops off the table. Here are my next 4 predictions for MLB. First one is, and I think this is almost a bet to happen. Marlins win total is 63.5. And the odds of that happening, minus 114. And I'm going to take under 63.5 wins at minus 114 for the Marlins. And we how many times have we talked about how bad the Marlins are going to be this year? Doesn't it feel like we've talked about it a lot?
Mm-hmm.
And they've already said that Davis De Los Santos is not going to make the opening day roster. Which I can see your reaction. What's your, I'm not going to say issue, but what's your problem with the Marlins sending him back down to AAA?
Well, the Marlins are in a huge conundrum. I got to see them play a 2-game series last year against the Rays at Tropicana Field, and I think it was around the trade deadline, and I forget which player got traded because he left the field during pregame. But the Marlins are a mess, and it's unfortunate that is that way. I mean, that franchise has won. I know it's been a long time, but they have won 2 World Series. I mean, they have. But to them, their ownership, I don't know if it's the same owner or if they've traded owners since, but they tear apart the team after they win a World Series because they can't afford to pay their contracts. So the Marlins are a mess. They're just a mess.
I think it's stupid that De Los Santos is starting the year at AAA. Let the kid, he's either going to sink or swim. Let him start at the big league level. You don't have a first baseman. Jonah Bride, yuck. Jonah Bride is not a everyday first baseman. I mean, you had Jake Berger, and then you traded him to Texas, which Nathaniel Lowe got shipped to Washington. My next one is the Yankees win total is 92.5, and it sits at 102. Odds are minus 102 for the under, and I like under 92.5 wins for the Yankees. And I know Yankees fans, like I said earlier, I know they're not going to like me. I just said it earlier. You lost a lot in the offseason. And there was some free agents you could have got. I do like Max Fried signing, but like we talked about with Bellinger, look at the injury history of Max Fried.
Yep.
It is. We would be here for at least 2 hours, maybe more, if we went over Max Fried's injury history and Cody Bellinger.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Because they are frequent visitors of the MLB injury hospital.
Well, they used to call it the disabled list, but they don't call that anymore.
Nope, they call it the injured list.
Yeah. Yep.
I call it I like to take 2 or 3 weeks off from playing list. Other than, of course, there's 2 or 3 injuries that, okay, you get a pass. If you have Tommy John, obviously you can't play through that.
Right.
If you tear your ACL, can't play through
Yeah.
that. And same, and if you tear your rotator cuff. But other than that, like these guys that have a bruised nail or blisters,
Yeah.
put some dirt on it and get back on the dang field. Next one is
I
the
like that.
so the two unders were the Marlins and the Yankees. Now we get to my overs for
Mhm.
wins. The first one is the Rays, and their win total is over or under 81 and a half wins, which I think that is just pathetic that Fangraphs has the Rays with that being their win total. And the odds for the Rays going over that is minus 108. And I like them to go over 81 and a half wins.
Okay.
Full year out of Junior Caminero, a full year out of Josh Lowe, Shane McClanahan back. There's just no way the Rays don't go over 81 wins. And the last one, and personally, my favorite is the Nationals. I think it's laughable what Fangraphs put their win total at. Fangraphs only has them winning 70 games.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Tell me that's not laughable.
So they have them going 70 and 92 this year. Wow.
That's what it seems like. I stand to think otherwise. I think the Nationals and their odds to go over 70 wins is minus 115. I am taking that all day. I think they win more than 70 games. This young core they're building, Dylan Cruz, James Wood, Brady House at some point this year, CJ Abrams, if he can stay out of the casino, because we saw what happened last year when he got in the casino. He got suspended. And then you got Cade Cavalli coming back. You got Robert Hassel III coming up, who was at some point this year, who was the Padres' best prospect that they got when they traded away Scherzer and Turner to the Padres. And what is your next prediction? We will get to the World Series stuff in a minute because there is some odds I have for the World Series before we officially give out our World Series picks. But who is your next prediction? What is your next prediction, I should say?
This might be a long shot, but somehow, some way, the Rays somehow come to an agreement to keep the Rays in St. Pete. I know that's a long stretch.
Well, I'm afraid I might have some bad news on that.
Okay.
There was and this is coming from a credible source within MLB and within local radio here, JP Peterson. And I was listening to it the other day. He basically came out and said there's a group in Tampa with ties to like the Tampa Bay area that wants to buy the Rays and move them to Tampa.
I mean, the prediction is that they stay in the area. You don't want to see them leave the Tampa Bay area. So if that means it's in Hillsborough County, fantastic.
But the problem I have with that, where are you going to put them in Tampa? You can't put them in downtown. There's no space in downtown.
Where there is space near.
I'm sorry, I would not want them in Ybor or Ybor City because a lot of bad stuff happens there.
Because that's where they originally wanted to put them. They had a spot in Ybor City ready to break ground, and the deal fell through. They couldn't. The city of Tampa couldn't come up with the monetary demands for that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know where else in Tampa you could put them because the land that is in between Steinbrenner Field and near Raymond James is owned by the Hillsborough Sports Authority. or the Tampa Bay Sports Authority, excuse me. So you have to buy the land from them, and they're not going to sell that land because they make a boatload of money off of it when they sell parking for Raymond James and for Steinbrenner Field. And yeah, I
Well, you know what? The only other spot I could see is the dog track, but people have been telling me that they legally they can't they can't demolish the dog track on
and I'm
the other
wondering.
side of the St. Pete Bridge going on to Gandy.
Oh, so you're talking about the dog track in St. Pete, because there's a dog track too in Tampa on the way to.
That's the one I'm talking about. The one that's when you get off the St. Pete Bridge and you're on Gandy Boulevard going
So
toward
the St. Pete Derby Lane. Derby Lane is what it's called in St. Pete. Yeah. You could, but yeah, the only problem with Derby Lane is, it's easy to get to, but traffic can be awful, in that area. Well, that's the biggest thing. That right there is one of the biggest dilemmas, is trying to get parking, because again, you're near the Gandy Bridge, and again, I know a lot of people don't know what the heck we're talking about. If you don't live in Florida, you don't know what we're talking about. But if you're right there by the Gandy Bridge, there's not really a lot of room to build any major parking lots. And if you go off site, that means you're going to have transportation, and then that's going to delay anyone coming to a baseball game. And I mean, I'm one of those people that if I go to a sporting event, I want to be able to like walk and get there within 20 minutes less. And that's what I want to do. But if you you park somewhere down the street and someone they drive you on a bus or whatever, if you're running late, it's going to suck. But yeah.
Anyway, back to the regularly scheduled episode. That was our little rant about the Rays. My next prediction is Paul Skeens wins NL Cy Young. His odds are plus. He's the shortest. He's probably the odds-on favorite to win Cy Young at plus 300. And I mean, we're not telling you to bet, but if you were, how much money would you put down on that? Plus 300 for Paul Skeens to win NL Cy Young.
Well, I mean, if you, like you said earlier, buddy, you take $25. I mean, you come out on the end of the season pretty good at a plus 300.
Yeah,
not bad. That wouldn't be a bad take home. So yeah.
No, yeah, but and if you're willing, I mean, I was looking. There's other guys on there like Mackenzie Gore. I think he was like plus 1,600 to win Cy Young. If you want to go for somebody that's further down, put like $15 on him and see what happens. Because I don't think there's a lot of people taking Turk Skubal last year to win AL Cy Young. And look what happened. Whoever did take him, they came out looking like $1 million.
Yep.
What is your next prediction?
Let's see. I say that this is a bounce back year for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They had a down year last year. They were in the World Series a couple of years ago. I think this is a bounce back year for the Diamondbacks. Now they have to, of course, they're in a tough division with the Dodgers and the Padres, and the Giants are kind of that iffy team too. So yeah, I think the Diamondbacks have a bounce back year.
My next prediction is the Rays to win the World. Tampa Bay Rays to win World Series. Odds sit at plus 5,000. If you're a betting person, how much money would you put on the Rays to win the World? How much money would you put down? Plus 5,000 for the Rays to win the World Series. 15.
I mean, if you put 20 down and they win it, yeah, you're looking at what, 100 grand, somewhere in that neighborhood. If my math
Yeah.
serves me, somewhere in that neighborhood.
You know what? I'd put between $15 to $20 down on it, maybe 25 if you're feeling extra extra like if you want to put 30, I think 30 might be a little steep, but if you want to put $30 down on the race to win the World Series, be my guest. Well, highest I'm going is 25. Lowest 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next one is the Diamondbacks plus 3,300 to win the World Series. Now, this is one where I'd put, and I might get laughed after this, I'd put $40 down on the Diamondbacks to win the World Series.
Again, if it happens, and every year, as we all know too, every year these odds come out. Vegas drops these odds, and somebody out there puts money on it, whether it's a small amount or a big amount, and somebody on the other end of at the end of the season, oh, this guy won $2 million because he put down 100 on the Diamondbacks to win the World Series, or he put 100 down on the Rays to win the World Series, and it's all over. And look, he's laughing from ear to ear because he laughing all the way to the bank because he just made a bunch of money. So yeah.
And then my last one, the Kansas City Royals to win the World Series plus 4,000. I'd put $5 down on the Royals. I like the team they've been building, but I just don't know in the American League because people sometimes say the American League, oh, it's weak. I don't think that's going to be the case this year.
Nope, I agree. I think it won't be as weak as they all think it's going to be. Let's put it that way.
No. And ladies and gentlemen, we're not saying you have to place any of these bets, but if you want to, how much money would you put down on the Royals to win the World Series?
The Royals, I don't think I would go any lower but than 10, any higher than 20. I mean, why not? You never know. Like you said, you never know what might happen. And I had Bobby Witt Jr. winning the AL MVP. So why not? Why not?
Okay. Now we get to the juicy part of the show, and it is World Series picks and who we think is going to be the opening day starter for the Nationals, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the Orioles, and the Red Sox. And our manager's hot seat. And I'll let you go first with your top 3 managers that are on the hot seat that might be getting that slip we like to call the pink slip that says, you're gone. Look here, find a new job.
I have
3?
but I have 2 from each league. For the National League, I have Carlos Mendoza. I know I was talking about the Mets having a rebirth, but if they fail with that team, he's going to get fired. And the other one I have is Joey Espada of the Astros. He's got a mess to clean up in Houston. And I know with that fan base, with them, I know they cheated, but they did win World Series. So he would be on. I'm sorry, that's in the American League. The other one in the National League is the Brewers, Pat Murphy. I think he's got a lot of pressure on him to win. The 2, as part of the other one I have in the American League, and I hate to say this, race fans, Rocco Baldelli. He has got to get the Twins in the playoffs and have them win. He has struggled to get that team. That team has been good. They're solid, but he just cannot get them over the hump when it comes to the playoff picture. So, yeah.
I've got 3, and it's 3 National League managers.
Okay.
Number 3, Ollie Marmol with the Cardinals. It is a mess in St. Louis. And we can't understate that enough. What are they going to do with Nolan Arenado? He vetoed a trade to Houston. Then there was a trade on the table to Boston, but then Boston signed Bregman. So where's Arenado going to end up? And I don't think that, like the Marlins, I don't think the Cardinals are done moving off of people they don't want. We saw they didn't re-sign Goldschmidt, and they got 3 guys on their team that I think are going to be valuable trade chips at the deadline. And Ryan Helsley, Arenado, if he's still there somehow, and Eric Fetty, who came back over from the KBO League last year and pitched really well for the White Sox. Because the Cardinals have a lot of young talent that they want to get, that they want to give playing time to, especially pitchers. Michael McGreevy, Tim Kent, Takel Roby. No, I'm missing one. He used to pitch for he was in the Rays system. He was in the Randy Arozarena trade. Matthew Liberatore. There, I just named you 5 young pitchers in the Cardinal system. And they claim this is this is year 2 of their retooling. Cardinals fans, I'm sorry. You are as far away from the playoffs as you can be. Number 2, and this one hurts me because he's been the Rockies manager for a while. Bud Black. I know you said the Rockies are going to improve. I agree. But what if the opposite happens? What if they regress to being mid, or they just have another really bad season? I don't think that front office would hesitate to fire Bud Black or say, look, you step down at the end of this year and we'll get a new face in here. Mm-hmm. And number 1, and this hurts me as a Rays fan, Derek Shelton of the Pirates. I know we both think the Pirates are going to be good this year, but what if they're not? What if they're 4th? They will not finish. I'm making this bold prediction. This is the one bold prediction of the show. I don't think the Pirates will finish in last place. I think they will be either the 3rd or 4th place team in the NL Central. But what if they're not and they finish in last place again? Do you think they get rid of Derek Shelton? I think they do. They were talking about it in the offseason, but Ben Sherrington decided not to. What do you think of those 3 guys? Do you think, what would you give the chance of all 3 of them getting fired this year?
I would give them a high chance. Again, if it goes wrong, like you just mentioned, but if it goes wrong in Colorado, like I mentioned about the Brewers or the Mets, like I said earlier that I thought the Mets were going to do better. But if it goes the opposite direction, yeah, and if it goes the other direction, sometimes it comes down to getting a new voice or a new face in the locker room. Some guys, the one thing we all know in sports, if you lose the locker room, whether that's in baseball, college football, pros, it's so hard to get it back. But if you lose it and it's gone, you got to get rid of that guy. And if it comes down to that with those 3, you got to get rid of them, get a new voice in there. And it would suck about Bud Black with the Rockies, and the same thing with the guy in Pittsburgh. But again, at the end of the day, sometimes
Derek Shelton's been there for 5-6 years. Bud Black's been there for over a decade since they got rid of Walt Weiss.
Yeah. And I think
continue.
They played the Red Sox in the World Series in 2007, if I'm not mistaken, I think.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
No, the last thing we're going to do is give our World Series picks. But now we're going to go over our who we think the opening day starters are going to be for the 5 teams I named earlier. And the first one we're going to start with is the Red Sox. Who do you think the opening day starter for the Boston Red Sox is going to be?
If it's not Crochet, I don't know who it would be. Honestly, you brought the
That's
guy
who,
in from. Yeah.
that's who I went with too. I said Derek Kurt. The only other guy I could think of, maybe Brian Bea, but I don't think he's earned it yet. Next, we've got the Baltimore Orioles. And this one was the tough one for me. Who do you have being the opening day starter for Baltimore?
Grayson Rodriguez.
That's who I went with because I'm like, they're not going to get, unless they wanted to go with a vet, maybe Charlie Morton, maybe Zach Eflin. But I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. They're toward the end of their career. Give it to, and I chose Grayson Rodriguez for that reason. Now, we've got three more. Who is the Diamondbacks opening day starter for you? I think this was the easiest one for me.
Corbin Burns. How could that not be? How? How can it be?
That's who I went with too. I said there's no way. I mean, I could see them giving it to Zach Gallen again, and then Corbin Burns being the game 2 starter, but I'm like, no. They didn't sign Corbin Burns not for him to be the opening day starter and be their ace.
Yeah.
Then
correct.
we get down to the Cincinnati Reds. Who is their opening day starter going to be?
Carson Spears.
What?
That's who I. That's who I
Carson
have.
Spears?
That's who I have. Yep.
I said Brady Singer. Because they did trade for Brady Singer. They traded Jonathan India straight up for Brady Singer during the offseason. Which, were you surprised when that happened?
Yes, I was. But then again, you have to get better, and I think that's where the Reds are going moving forward. So yes.
And the thing was, India was they were already talking about trading him at the deadline, and it didn't happen. So I'm like, okay. And I think you're probably on the same wavelength as me. You're like, okay, so they didn't trade him at the deadline, so it's got to happen in the offseason. And it just, I don't think Brady Singer was expendable. I just think that Kansas City, I think he needs a new contract within the next 2 years. And I don't think Kansas City wanted to pay him because he was going to be asking for top of the market money. And then, who is your opening day starter for the Washington Nationals?
Mackenzie Gore.
That's who I went with too. I wanted to say Trevor Williams because I believe he re-signed with the Nationals. But I'm like, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. They have a young core. Why wouldn't you give it to the guy that got the started one of the first 3 games last year, and Mackenzie Gore? And now, ladies and gentlemen, a moment you have been waiting for. Our official 2025 World Series prediction. Who do you have in the World Series, and how many games is it going to go, and who wins it all?
I have the Dodgers and the Red Sox. I know that's kind of home biased, and as a Red Sox fan, that's fine.
I don't mind the Red Sox, but the Dodgers.
The only reason
are they going to choke in the World Series again?
I would love for them to choke in the World Series because that means that Boston wins it all. So that would be awesome. The reason I have the Dodgers there is, again, look at that lineup. I mean, you got
that rotation.
The rotation's got 5 aces on it. That's going
to
be
if they all stay healthy.
If they all stay healthy. But I have the Dodgers and the Red Sox. I think it's going to go 7. and I think Boston wins it in the end of it all. But I think it will go. It's not going to be like this past year where the Dodgers came out and just took it to the Yankees, which doesn't make, of course, make it every non-Yankee fan happy.
Both of us.
But I think it's the Reds. Yankee fans are going to hate me, but yeah, they always do anyway. But I think it's the Red Sox in 7. Is who I have my prediction to be.
This is going to stun everybody. I don't have the Rays in the World Series. I don't have the Dodgers in the World Series. My World Series is the Battle of Ohio.
Okay. All right.
The
Okay.
Cincinnati Reds. And yes, I know I am a Reds fan, but this is a non-biased Reds fan here. I think the Reds are going to have a really good season. A first World Series prediction. Reds and Guardians. It goes 7, and the Reds win the World Series. Now, Dodgers fans, you can disagree with me on that all you want. I don't see the Dodgers making it past the second round. I think they're going to choke. And better yet, I I don't feel good saying this, but I think the Dodgers might miss the playoffs.
Wow. Okay.
Because are all their guys going to stay healthy? Mookie Betts. And that's the one that doesn't make sense to me. And we can briefly talk about this. The Dodgers. Do you think if the Blue Jays make Bichette available at the deadline, do the Dodgers pick up the phone right away? Andrew Freeman calls Ross Atkins and says, what do I have to give up to get Bo Bichette? What are the chances he picks up the phone and calls him right away?
I would say
if
that's a pretty
Bichette is available.
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty good chance. It's one more power bat they can add to that lineup that's already got a bunch of them in it. But yeah.
Well, and the thing is, you know how the Dodgers are. They defer all the money. They could easily re-sign him.
Yeah.
But then where do you put Mookie?
Well, who is their DH right now?
Ohtani.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep. Okay, well, yeah, then if that's where do you put Mookie Betts? See, I don't
base.
I don't think you make that move unless Mookie's hurt or if he's not having a very good season leading up to the trading deadline. Because I mean, unless what you do.
I mean, you could put him at second base, or you could put him back in the outfield.
Or you, on certain nights, if you do bring in Bichette, you then. But see, that would be weird, though.
Well, and they also have the kid from Japan, Hyun Kim. I mean, that infield is just a mess, other than Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, I was gonna say at first base. Yeah.
Freddie's the only locked-in guy. You got Muncy at third, which you could easily move him to second base, or he could become a utility. Yeah, play second base, play third base, play shortstop. Play first base on the days Freddie Freeman needs off.
You could.
They've been trying one of their top prospects at first base, in Dalton Rushing, because he's a catcher, and they just happened to sign Will Smith to a 10-year contract extension last year.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if all that money is not deferred.
It probably already has been.
Dodgers fans, I'm sorry to say this. This is going to come back to bite you when all these guys retire. You're going to get, who was it you're going to get Bobby Bonilla.
Yep.
And Chris Davis.
Paying these guys until 10 or 15 years after they retire. You're still paying them. Yeah.
The old Bobby Bonilla.
That's coming up. That day's coming up, I think, soon. Every year they bring it up every year. So
Yep.
Yeah.
It's National Bobby Bonilla Day.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of teams that are getting Bobby Bonilla. Not just and we could wrap up the show with this, but the Dodgers aren't the only ones getting Bobby Bonilla. The Mets are.
Yeah.
They still have to pay Bobby Bonilla.
Yes, it's coming. It's July 1st, and he's due almost $2 million until 2030. So, boys and girls, the Mets are still paying him for the next 10 years. 10 years. They still got 10 years left on that contract. He gets paid $1,193,248.20 till 2035. July 1st. So right as
He's set.
Yeah, that's 2035. So there you go. The Dodgers will be paying
then how
Otani.
much? Hold up. How much do the Orioles still owe Chris Davis? I love to hear this because they're not getting Bobby Bonilla. They're getting Chris Davis.
Chris Davis. Let's see here.
Not with a K, with a C.
Let's see. He is due $40 million through 2037 from his 7-year. He is owed. Yes. Yeah. The Orioles owe. Yes. Yes. As of July 2024, the Baltimore Orioles are paying Chris Davis, who is owed $40 million through 2037. So you do the math. Years. So you're looking at that's insane. So let's see.
$16 million.
Here it has it's broken down. In 2023, Davis was scheduled to receive $9.16 million per year, $3.5 million between 2026 and 2032, and $1.4 million between 2023 and 2027.
He's set for life.
So yeah, he just and I was never really again being an American League East fan. Chris Davis in his heyday was a great baseball player. It just it is what it is. But yeah. So be careful, Dodgers. You're going to be paying Otani until he's like 28.
Well, no, you're going to be paying Otani. You're going to be paying Yamamoto.
Yep.
You're going to be paying Freeman, Betts.
All that deferred money is going to have to
Snell, Glasnow.
Kick the can down the road too many times. Sooner or later, the can's going to have to be due to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And they signed Sasaki to a minor league deal?
Yeah. Yep.
And then that Hai-San Kim from Japan, they signed him to a 3-year deal. And I wouldn't be surprised if that money was kicked down the road too.
Oh yeah. They've got a loophole. They figured out how to use a loophole in Major League Baseball.
That's like we're both Lightning fans. And I know this is completely different sport. But if you look at what teams do right before the trade deadline in hockey, mysteriously, and this is well known by now, the Vegas Golden Knights do it every year. Magically, just out of nowhere, Mark Stone gets hurt. Shea Theodore gets hurt. Jack Eichel. And all of a sudden, they have $20 million in cap space. And everybody's like, how is that happening? It's called the loophole of, put guys on LTIR.
Yep. Yep. Correct.
That's kind of what the Dodgers are doing. But it's not LTIR. It's called they're just kicking as Bradley just said, they're kicking the can down the road. And eventually that can is going to come back and whack you right in the face.
Yep, it'll come.
And you're going to have to pay up. And it ain't going to be pretty, Dodgers. You're going to be in deferred whatever it's called, HE double hockey sticks.
Correct.
Because you decided to defer. And I mean, the Mets did defer some of Juan Soto's money, but not all of it. So they're not out of the They're not out of it either, but they didn't do what the Dodgers did and deferred everything.
Correct.
And I talked about this briefly yesterday, and we could talk about it a little bit right now. The whole Vlad Guerrero, what's up with that? Like he gave the Blue Jays till spring training to come up with a new contract, and
I don't know if they're still talking, but last I read about
no,
that.
he shut down negotiations.
Okay.
Which to me, that's a telltale sign that look, you couldn't come up with a contract extension for me. So there's two ways we can solve this. One, trade me at the deadline, or two, we could reopen extension talks in the offseason, or three, you just let me go to free agency. Because the and I'm gonna say it's noise right now, but the word out of Toronto is they want to keep, instead of keeping Bichette, they want to keep Vladdy, and they want to build around Vladdy.
Yeah, but Guerrero can be streaky at times. That's the issue with him. Is
He can.
he unfortunately he's nothing, and no offense to him, he's nothing like his dad. It just
No, he's not.
thing like his dad.
Vlad Sr. was good.
And I mean, that might be somewhat but of what's going on with him. Maybe he's living in the.
What I heard is he wants the same amount of money or more than what Juan Soto got with the Mets.
He's not going to, because Soto. Not only does Soto hit the ball, he plays well in the outfield. Guerrero has had issues on the defensive side of the ball too at first base. So, are you going to make him an everyday DH? Are you going to like Big Poppy him, David Ortiz him? Is that what you're going to do? But you're going to sign a guy to make what, 80, 90 million dollars to be your DH? I don't know if Toronto's going to do that. So, we'll see.
Would you trade him?
I would, but depending on what the comeback is. I mean,
because I've heard people put out mock trades of him going to like the Yankees, going to the Dodgers, which the Dodgers don't need anybody else.
No. But then again, they can use that loophole and bring him in and pay him and kick it down the road, and they don't have to worry about it.
And then where would you put him? Because Ohtani's your everyday DH, even when he's pitching. Freddie's at first base. Third base? Maybe third base? And get rid of Muncy? Because I'm sorry, Max Muncy's kind of, I'm not going to say washed, but he's out of his
prime.
Way out of his prime.
Honestly, I don't nothing against him. I just don't
think
he has.
What's more likely? Vladdy to the Yankees or Vladdy to the Dodgers?
I think to the Yankees. And the only reason that I say that is the Steinbrenners, which I know, George is long gone, God rest his soul, especially living in the Tampa Bay area. He did a lot for the area, even though he was a Yankee owner. We all hated him when
Al Steinbrenner's the owner now.
Al Steinbrenner now. Yeah, he's the only Steinbrenner left.
And Brian Cashman's probably on the hot seat.
I agree with you on that. I know they just re-signed Aaron Boone, but I think if they get off to a bad and if he start or a bad start, they don't make the playoffs, they're both Cashman and Boone are both gone. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Hal Steinbrenner is not his dad. George was more of a go get it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to win. Hal doesn't really like, because at the end of the day, they have to pay luxury tax on every dollar for a certain amount of money. And I know reading articles that the Yankees and the Phillies and the Dodgers and the Red Sox ownership, they're tired of having to pay into this pool that the low-income teams like the Rays and the Royals and the Nationals take out of Marlins to stay in contention. And that's the bad thing about baseball not having a salary cap, which that'll never happen with the MLBPA.
Well, I don't know about that. there's some owners that have talked to Rob Manfred.
About doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they've already said in 2026, after the 2026 season, there will be a lockout.
I was reading something but about that the other day, that there's a possibility there could be a lockout, which for baseball, the one sport that does not need a work stoppage is baseball. Baseball is low on the popularity behind, hockey and basketball and football in this country, and you take another dip and another work stoppage, unless you're a hardcore baseball fan, you're gone. There might be a lot of people that say, I'm never watching that sport again. If that happens,
Yeah.
hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it
That's
does,
the same article I read. They're like, oh, there's already been talk. There's going to be a lockout. Which you saw what happened the last time the lockout happened.
yep.
And we're going to wrap it up with, and this is laughable to me. After 48 years, the Yankees finally decide to alter their facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Devin Williams, I guess, didn't like the fact that he had to shave his beard.
Yeah, I when I saw that the other day, I'm like, oh, something's going on in Yankee country. Because that was always, like, I remember when Johnny Damon was with the Red Sox and he went to the Yankees and he cut his long hair off, shaved his beard off, and it was like, oh my God, he's a different player. It's like, oh my God, like, and you have to stay. Everybody was always clean shaven. Alex Verdugo went there last year. He had a beard, completely clean shaven. Everybody, so am I surprised? Maybe Hal Steinbrenner's kind of like, yeah, my dad's not here no more. That was my dad's rule. Let's do that, and so we can keep our players happy.
Yeah. And Bradley and Alec wrapping up there. We will see everybody with another episode of the Baseball Banter podcast next Tuesday night at the same time, 5:45. We are signing off. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Good night, guys.